Now we are going to discuss about the welfare economics. Classical economists assume the greatest good for the greatest number. So as far as the classical economists, those who are assumed that whenever there is increase in the number of goods and services, then there will be the profitable one we can able to achieve through that production also. So that was the assumption which was made by the classical economist. Here the total welfare of the economy, that is, we just want to do add up the individual welfares. If we are able to add up totally all the individuals welfare, and we can able to get the social welfare. An interpersonal comparison of welfare is possible. Definitely we can able to compare between those two persons or those two individuals, how the welfare of both of them will be. So for that we can able to compare also. An individual welfare is independent of others welfare. Definitely individual A must have the influence of individual B, and individual B also have its same influence of individual A. So both the individuals are having independent of others welfare. Welfare is measured in terms of utility. So we can able to mention, that is measurable, the units through which we can able to analyze that how much the individual A is having the welfare and B is having the total welfare. So like that way we can able to calculate. That is the model of cardinal analysis. So we can able to number the quantum, how the utility was mentioned for the each product, and how the consumer is getting through satisfaction with that particular products, and we can able to measure also. And only economic welfare is they are naming as consumption. Yes, without consumption we can't do anything else. So the starting point of us of every economic activity is the consumption. So the basic need only is going to create many more innovations. And based on egalitarian distribution of income, yes, definitely we need to have the calculation of distribution of income. So throughout which how the income was distributed towards from the rich towards the poor, it can also be calculatable. And the new welfare economics, under this caption just we are going to read about, that is we are able to clear about the new welfare economics, that is normative economics, not a positive one. So according to this, here we are having two types of economics, that is normative and positive economics. And as though here they are mentioning that in the case of new welfare economics, we just going to have only normative economics, not a positive economics. And equity and social well-beings and value judgment, we can judge the value for the social as well as for the individual welfare, but we cannot able to valid, as though they said the cardinal, through the cardinal utility measure we can able to measure the welfare. But here for this new welfare economics saying that no, you can't validate, okay, through this cardinal analysis. So only they are saying in the third point, no cardinal measure of welfare is possible, only ordinal measurements. Okay, only ordinal measurements. In this we cannot able to have the number of utils, but we can say this much of satisfaction I can be able to achieve through this production or through this consumption of the particular product. Encompass the social welfare of one type of allocation with another. So we can able to compare the types of allocation, that is the social, in the case of social welfare we can able to compare the one type of product with another type of products. Like that way we can able to do that. And some of the professors are contributed towards this new welfare economics. They are Hicks, Pigou, Calder, Skitowski, Bergson. So those persons were concentrated much of in new welfare economics. And in the concept of Pareto optimality, so the Paretian thought, whatever the that is whenever there will be an increase in the level of satisfaction in the for any individual in that particular society, without affecting any other individual satisfaction, then we can have the social welfare will be increased level. So that is the basic thing. So in as though we know that everybody has interlinked with the welfare community. So in that concept, everybody has the same level of welfare is a difficult thing. So if one person is able to get increase in the level of welfare, so through which in that particular step, if nobody was affected with their particular welfare, then the social welfare have a rise up. So that is the thing here we are going to see about. At Pareto optimum, both parties are satisfied. In the case both of the individuals has to have the satisfaction level, so and there is social welfare, so we can able to mention that is there is existence of social welfare. But this is not the only unique equilibrium point. So idu in the stage la vandu pathinga appadinu sonna, this is not only the unique equilibrium point, and we have to consider another one point is also, see, if one person improves his welfare, another will decrease. So in that thing, what happens to the social welfare? Definitely the social welfare will be decreased. New welfare economics suggests that compensation can be paid by those who are better off to those who are worse off to keep social welfare constant. So in order to have the constant level of social welfare, we need to pay off from the who is getting better off. Those person must give the payment towards the worse off, that is those who are having welfare decreased. In that level we have to getting this, if we are able to pay up towards them, and we can able to maintain the social welfare to be a constant one. And compensation principle. So here how we are going to compensate the losers. If a change in allocations or economic policy makes A better off without making A worse off, the social welfare will increase if A can compensate B for his loss and still be better off. So even though if the person is A can compensate B for his loss, if B is a victim or B is getting a lower level of welfare, because of A's welfare increased, there will be any reduction in the level of welfare of B, then he has to compensate with this particular level and to maintain the better off. And for example, they are giving, see, listen please, if fishing is prohibited in a lake but swimming and boating are allowed, then fishermen are worse off but tourists are better off. Has social welfare increased or decreased? See, in a particular place, if there is a lake, okay, if there is a lake and they are saying fishing is prohibited, you shouldn't fishing, that means what, you shouldn't catch the fish in the lake, but it can be used for swimming as well as for a boating. In that case, there will be an increase in the level of tourism, but the fisherman will has a big question mark with his lifestyle. Okay, in that case, whether the social welfare is increased or decreased, there is a question raised. In this, if the latter pay compensation to the fishermen for the loss of their income due to the new law, then social welfare can remain constant. So in this concept, if the tourism, okay, the tourism department may give some compensation towards the to lead a life of that particular fisherman, then the social welfare will be remain constant. Okay, so the same compensation principle was dealt by Hicks and Calder also. Calder's criterion, allocation X is socially preferable to allocation Y if those who gain from X could compensate the losers and still be better off. So in order to have the in order to maintain the loss and he should be have the better of life, he must get the compensation. So that is what the Calder also said. And Hicks criterion, what about the Hicks criterion is allocation X is socially preferable to allocation Y if those who lose from X cannot bribe the gainers into not making the change from Y to X. So, if the X is gainable, okay, X is gainable by choosing some allocation, and if Y has to get the loss, then the X shouldn't, that is, the X doesn't bribe anything from Y, but because of the facilities or feasibilities in the society, they are making profit, and but the Y is making the loss. So in that case, in the fisherman cannot pay off the tourist to not use the lake, so he doesn't want to pay anything else towards the Y. So even though in that particular concept, the Hicks and Calder was deferred. Okay, and so we had a figure here. Yes, we are having one figure, and in the x-axis we are having A's utility, and in the y-axis we are having the B's utility. So by seeing this figure itself, we are having there is an indirect relationship between B's utility and A's utility. It means what? Whenever there will be an increase in the level of B's utility, definitely there will be a reduction in the level of A's utility. So in that sense, always the B is catching over the A's utility in order to increase the particular utility. So this is what we can able to find out here. And in the reverse case also we can able to, if the A's utility is greater, at the last point you can watch AR, at the same time BR is very low. So by consuming or by having B's utility add up, then A's utility will be filled towards O to AR. So whenever there will be an increase in the level of one particular individual's utility, there will be a definite reduction in the another individual's utility. This is what the Hicks and Calder compensation principle says here. In this, we can able to compensate, and if we are able to lead or we can able to follow at particular point Z where B0 and A0 were intersected, even though it is not the price line limit, but if we are able to face up, if we are able to follow this OB0 and OA0, then the social welfare will be in a unique manner. Yes. Okay. Thank you. We can have the next session with Sklodowsky paradox. Okay. Thank you, girls.